What if we could take any donated organ and make it compatible with any patient? It sounds like science fiction, right? Well, today we're breaking down a stunning new piece of research that might just make that a reality. Scientists may have finally figured out how to create a universal donor organ, and it could literally change everything we know about transplantation. So let's get right to it. Here's the headline, and it is a big one. For the very first time ever, researchers have successfully taken a human kidney from a donor with blood type A, and they've changed its blood type to the universal donor, type O. And this, of course, raises the one massive question that everyone is asking. Are we on the verge of creating truly universal donor organs? A future where blood type is no longer a barrier to getting a life-saving transplant. To really get that, we need to dive into the science. But first, to understand why this is such an incredible game changer, you really have to grasp the sheer scale of the problem that organ transplantation faces every single day. Okay, so the biggest hurdle, the one major roadblock in transplantation, has always been compatibility. See, if you receive an organ with a blood type that doesn't match yours, your immune system basically freaks out. It sees that new organ as a dangerous invader and launches an immediate all-out attack to destroy it. And this is where the problem gets really, really serious, especially for patients with type O blood. Now, you might know that type O blood makes you a universal donor, but the flip side is you can only receive organs from other type O donors. That huge restriction means they make up more than half, a staggering 53% of the entire kidney transplant waiting list. And that's not just a statistic on a chart, right? It has this devastating real-world cost. On average, a patient with type O blood will wait 2 to 4 years longer for a kidney than someone with any other blood type. That is the life or death gap this new science is trying to close. So how on earth did they do it? How do you just rewrite the fundamental biological identity of an entire human organ? Let's get into the actual science behind the switch. It all boils down to these tiny little things on the surface of our cells called antigens. The absolute best way to think about them is like ID badges. If you have type A blood, your cells wear A badges. Type B, B badges. Your immune system is like Bouncer, trained to check these badges and immediately attack anything it doesn't recognize. Type O blood is so special because its cells have no badges, making them totally anonymous. That's why it's the universal donor. So the mission was to figure out how to remove those A badges. The scientists developed this incredible procedure they call the enzyme converted O or ECO process. They take a donor kidney and for a few hours, they pump a special fluid through it. This fluid is packed with enzymes that act like a pair of molecular scissors, seeking out and snipping off all the type A antigens. Once those ID badges are gone, voila, the kidney is now biologically type O. And get this whole incredible conversion process, it took them just about 2 hours. That's it. Okay, so the theory is sound, right? It works on a technical level. But the real test, the only test that really matters, is seeing what happens when you actually put this converted organ inside a human system. And that is exactly what they did next. The team put this theory to the ultimate test. They took their newly converted kidney and transplanted it into a recipient whose family had generously consented to the research. And for 2 full days, it worked perfectly. The kidney was functioning with absolutely zero signs of that immediate violent rejection you'd normally expect. Then, on day 3, they started to see the first signs of an immune response. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. An immune response? That sounds like it failed. But, and this is honestly the most brilliant part of the whole experiment, it didn't. See, in a normal transplant, doctors use powerful drugs to suppress the immune system. For this experiment, the researchers deliberately used none. They wanted to prove one critical thing. Could the ECO process, all by itself, stop that immediate catastrophic attack? And the answer was a resounding yes. The experiment was a huge success. You know, one of the study's co-authors, Stephen Withers, he put it perfectly. He said they needed to see what would happen in this pure, unaltered state, so they could actually watch and monitor how fast those A antigens started to grow back. It wasn't a clinical trial, it was a scientific stress test. So this experiment was a massive proof of concept. It proved the science works. But where do we go from here? What's the path from this single, incredible experiment to actually saving lives in hospitals around the world? Well, the path forward is actually pretty clear. The first, most obvious step is to combine this echo process with the standard immunosuppressant drugs to see just how long the organ can be sustained. Then, the next big leap is to try this on other organs. I mean, can you imagine universal hearts or livers? And all of this leads, eventually, to carefully controlled clinical trials with living patients. That will be the ultimate test of its life-saving potential. Look, we're still in the very early days here, for sure. But this research gives us the first real tangible glimpse into a future where your blood type is no longer a barrier to a life-saving transplant. And it forces us to ask this profound question: what would our world actually look like if organ waitlists simply became a thing of the past?